How's everyone doing today? My name is Jared Messmer, and today I'd like to discuss a topic that should be near and dear to the hearts of a lot of people. Now, we all remember our first car, right? You know that feeling that you had when you first took those keys in your hand to start the engine for the first time, right? Well, I'm also pretty certain there are people here that have not gotten a chance to experience that yet. But regardless, we all understand the concept of not owning a vehicle and the needs and desires that go along with that. And this kind of brings me to my first question. Why do we want to own a vehicle? But before we get into any of that, let me talk about myself for a minute. So about 2 years ago, I left home to join the military, and I ended up purchasing a vehicle that was less than desirable. Now, I was able to get myself out of that situation through a lot of hard work, determination, and education. But I also found myself surrounded by individuals that would go down the same road that I would eventually go down and making the same choices I made. Now, in order to help them out, I passed on all my experiences, knowledge, and education onto them. And one of the biggest questions I had them ask themselves is, why do they want to drive? Well, if we were to ask ourselves this question, it should be very simple. We want to drive. But where are we going? Perhaps we have financial obligations we have to meet. Or maybe we want to just hang out with our friends on the weekend, go downtown. Or maybe we want to hang out with our family over the holidays. But regardless, in order to understand whether or not our vehicle is going to be a need or desire, we need to weigh out the pros and cons. And the first of which I'd like to discuss would be the benefits of owning a vehicle. Now, compared to rideshare services, public transportation, and walking, owning your own vehicle and being able to get into it is going to be faster than all of those combined. Additionally, it's going to be safer than hopping into a car full of strangers. Furthermore, depending on your area, a rideshare service over time is going to cost more than a tank of gas over time. Additionally, you also won't be held ransom by someone else's schedule, such as friends or family. You'll be able to get to where you're going when you want to and come back at your own discretion. Now, with all this talk about benefits, how about we talk about the downsides? Most obvious should be the cost. But in order to understand the cost, you need to first create a budget. If you haven't done so yet, I highly recommend you do so. But first, you have to ask yourself, what kind of car do I want? In order to understand that, thankfully in this day and age, we have resources such as Edmunds.com, Kelley Blue Book, and JD Power. And with all these resources available to us, the purpose of these is to understand the prices of vehicles, depending on their brand, their age, and whatnot, and their condition, and give you an idea of what they cost in your area. Additionally, they'll provide basic information such as the size of the car and the gas per mile. Now, once you have selected your vehicle, you're going to want to compare that to your income and current expenses and weigh that against the cost, whether or not you're going to pay out of pocket or take out a loan, the gas, the maintenance, and insurance involved. Now, with all this talk about purchasing a vehicle, though, how about we talk about the future? How about we talk about whether or not we're going to trade in our vehicle or sell it? But if you were to sell it, you have two options available to you: trading in, or privately selling, or selling it directly to a dealership. Now, according to JD Power's Jeff Youngs, if you were to sell it directly to a dealership, there are a lot of expenses involved. There's the time it takes for the expenses involved to transport a vehicle to an auction. The dealership is going to absorb all of the financial obligations. There's paperwork and time involved in processing and money involved in processing that paperwork and whatnot. And it's only natural that a dealership is going to want a larger cut. And as such, you won't get as much money out of selling it directly to a dealership as opposed to selling privately. But according to Kelley Blue Book's Sean Tucker, while you will get generally more money out of selling your vehicle privately, you're going to run into a lot of issues such as time or individuals that you'll have to haggle with in order to get the best money available or that you feel your car's worth. Now, additionally, you could also just trade it in directly to the same dealership you're going to sell it to. Now, the value that you'll get as a trade-in will be generally higher than selling it. as a flat rate, but you'll be able to use that vehicle as a down payment on a brand new vehicle. Now, with everything I've discussed so far, we should have a basic understanding of all the thinking that should be involved in the purchasing and planning of purchasing to buy a vehicle. Ultimately, though, understand this, the purchasing of a vehicle, the best time to do so is up to the buyer, but it can only be determined by the financial stability and obligation. And only once these two factors have been adequately justified can we go out and purchase this vehicle. Thank you for listening, and I hope everyone here is able to one day enjoy the feeling of starting their first vehicle.